All right, y'all. Let's get right to it. I'm gonna do a trade review in a sec too, but let's start here. Daily, yuck, 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 right? But something. Nice, nice, nice. We saw that immediately on daily open, right? This was the buy. And in fact, we had a smaller time. I mean, this was the buy right down here. This 37.8, 37.9. That was a great buy. And the first profit target was here, 38.4. Wow, didn't I just say I was gonna do this in a different video? Hold up, bro. Okay. We are channeling downward. I mean, channeling eh, is maybe kind of a strong word at this time, but is it really that strong of a word? I mean, this is just like no matter what bulls do, they're getting blown out. They're getting blown out and they're getting blown back constantly. We have one, two, three pushes down, but I don't really feel like this is the one to do like this. I kind of feel like this one doesn't count. I feel like this is first push, this is the second push, and then we're gonna have something like this. Um, because I don't know. I guess this overlap could be the one to make it do that, but I guess the way that I'm feeling is this overlap makes it more likely to go sideways than for it to be like this. I think it would make more sense for us to go down here and then come back up to this level and then start maybe a sideways thing type move. Um, that being said, this is only 46K. I don't expect us to not get back to 46K until June. I think we do want to, because we're also in this channel, right? And this channel is much stronger. I don't know actually, because like we're breaking out of that channel now. Is there a way we can draw this channel to keep everything inside? Maybe, maybe kind of like this. Um, Not the biggest fan of this because it's very cope. It's a lot of coping because we're ignoring this, which I think is cleaner just because we've had resolution. So but here's a little tip for when you're building channels and things like this, or when you're building trend lines, right? When you have a specific pivot point, this is a very clear pivot point, right? We don't ever use these circles, but it's kind of cool. This is a specific pivot point. This is a specific pivot point. This is a specific pivot point here, right? Clear pivot points. This tried to be a pivot point, but it didn't really work out. But this certainly is not a pivot point yet. This is not a confirmed pivot point, right? This is something that's happening in real time. Until we see it start respecting that channel again, this is not a pivot point because this could just very easily go down like this, right? So at this time, it doesn't make sense to ignore this clear pivot point in favor of this potential pivot point. Does that make sense? So I'm not a fan of drawing the channel this way, but it's fine to draw the channel. It's fine to draw the channel this way, but you just have to acknowledge that you're redrawing a channel, and redrawing is not good. The more you redraw, the weaker the case is. Um, so because we have to redraw this in order to be bullish, I mean, it's not to say in order to be bullish, but redrawing this makes the bullish case weaker. Does that make sense? Um, that being said, it doesn't mean that the bullish case is not um, out of the question, but I mean, we have this kind of channel, right? We also have this kind of channel, um, and this is, I wouldn't really call this a redraw. This is just an acknowledgement of the potential acceleration that could be happening here, right? This is probably the main channel. If either of these channels are real, this is probably the main channel because it's been more established. Again, same situation, right? Pivots, pivot. Shout out Ross. Pivot. Pivot, pivot, kind of pivot. Yeah, here, right? Um, this has a lot of pivot points, this shallower channel, right? But this steep channel has, as well, it has its own pivots, right? There's a pivot. We should make these a different color. Let's see if we can do that. Let's do like, Is blue gonna conflict too much with the color? Yeah. Let's do like maybe magenta or something. Ugh, it's just like it's hard to get a color. Like, can we do yellow? Okay, yellow is so close to um, this orange, but whatever. Uh, Kind of a pivot towards the top. Maybe we can draw it like this. That's a little better, right? And then pivot here, and then pivot here, and then pivot here. So we have a few pivots. Yeah, this is horrible, right? If I don't know, color blindness or whatever, it might be tough to see the yellows and the oranges. Maybe you can use the size, the bigger ones, or the more major this major pivot. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here as well. So as far as number of points, like it's reasonable to draw either of these channels, and it's not a question of who has more points, so that's the real channel. It's a question of are there enough points that people could see either channel, right? Like maybe you don't recognize this, but you recognize this one, right? I think it's pretty easy for people to see this and say, hey, we might have something here, like a potential, we're kind of channeling downward here, while neglecting rather to acknowledge the potential channel here. And why would we neglect the potential channel here? Because this is, oops, yeah, sometimes you don't want to include this necessarily in the channel because, is it really part of the channel? Hasn't the channel begun here? Well, not necessarily. You feel like you don't want to include it because there's no resolution in this area, but you get the resolution down here. And when you get that resolution down here, there's no resolution up in this area. This is a void here, and this is a void here. So I think it's reasonable to draw this as your channel. But it's also some pretty much equally reasonable to draw this channel. So we have to be mindful of both, because if this happens to come down here now we're out of this channel. We can try and redraw it. But again, the more times you redraw, the weaker it is. And that doesn't say that the bearish case is weaker, but we know that channels typically, like a bear channel is usually going to be a sort of bull flag. In this case, we probably have a spike in channel, right? We kind of have this spike in channel. Well, when you have this spike in channel, it's more likely that this is going to be the channel, because too much of half of this shallower channel is occurring within the spike phase, if you're going to call this a spike phase, right? If this is your spike phase, well, your channel isn't starting in the middle of your spike phase, right? It has to start at the end of the spike phase, and this is not a reasonable channel to draw, right? Because now let's look at the number of pivots we have here. We have one pivot here, we have one pivot here, and we have kind of this little pivot situation here. This is 2 touches on the trend line. I mean, 3 touches here on the trend line. There's no touches here on the trend line. It makes more sense, instead of drawing it like this, like a channel, to draw it as a wedge, um, because, right, it makes a lot more sense to draw it that way, as a wedge, where now you get an extra pivot here, kind of a clear little bit of a trend line here, and a clear trend channel line here. So, okay, if we're going to call this a spike and channel, it's more of a spike and wedge formation. Spike and wedge, at the end of the wedge formation, is going to end up breaking out to the upside, usually, right? And then that would be consistent with the fact that we are certainly in a horizontal range. This is great TA, by the way. If you're watching this is killer TA. We're doing a really good job right now. So, couple things to acknowledge. We have, let's do this. By the way, since we're talking about channels, right? You could say this is a channel as well. This is a spike phase channel, right? Like when the channel is this, has this strong of a slope, it's accelerative a word? I don't know. It's very accelerative, let's say. This is a channel in the sense of telling you where to take your profits. It's not a channel in the sense of, oh, this is a bull flag. This is clearly not a bull flag, right? Like, this is very clearly like a bearish impulse. But in this sense, the channel is telling you, okay, every time we get to this level, like if you're shorting over here, if you're shorting like this level, right? If you're shorting the bottom of the channel, the trend line, this is where you can take your profit. You short here, take profit here. You short here, you can take profit when we get here, right? Knowing that we're possibly going to cool off. I mean, this is one where you're getting these levels are not defined like as it's happening like this. You're not really getting that definition. So you're not really getting to know, hey, we're in a channel, so this is where you take profit. But in hindsight, you can see that this is a level where profit taking occurred, right? This is a level where re-entering shorts occurred. This is a level where, again, profit taking occurred. This is a level where, again, bulls petered out and tried to re-enter shorts. And this is a level where the final profit taking occurred, but notice how it did not hit the bottom of the channel. So this is not a channel. This is just a way to house the impulse, okay? So we have a couple potential channels. We have this potential channel, and we have this potential accelerating channel. This accelerating channel is different from this accelerating channel. Let's do that real quick, right? This is very clearly impulsive. Bulls are never, ever, ever, never once during this, never once in control. Bulls have no opportunity to make money. If you took this trade, not really making money. If you took this trade, not really making money. You're making money in the sense of like 2% is good money, but relative to, look at this, 7% down, almost 4% down, almost 10% down, 4% back up. And realistically, you maybe only get this 3% before it pushes you down. You probably don't get stopped out, but like if your stop is under this bar or if your stop is under this bar, maybe you're getting stopped out. So bulls are really not making money here. However, in this side, you get 6% down. Bulls are not making money here. But from here, you get 3% down, and you get another 6% back up. This is a clear opportunity for bulls to make money. Of course, they get blown out here if they don't take their profits up here. But bulls are a little bit stronger in this channel than in this channel. Can we agree on that? I think that's pretty clear to see, right? Here, it was really like you need to be a bear, or you're probably not going to have a good time. Here, you still probably should be a bear. You're probably not having the best time if you're a bull, but there have been certainly potential opportunities for you to make some money so far. And here, and in both cases, we've tapped the trend channel line and brought it back up to the trend line. Kind of tapped the trend channel line and brought it back up to the trend line. We can tighten this channel a little bit so that it makes it clear, right? We tapped the bottom, came back up to the top. I mean, really, this is the bottom and this is the top, right? We tapped the top, came back to the bottom, tapped the top, came back to the bottom. Here we also tapped the top, came back to the bottom, but see how this is a sideways thing? If you buy here thinking that we're going to go up or sideways, you're never making money. You will never make money, right? If you buy this, you don't make money. You don't even get an opportunity to break even. Here, if you buy this one, you get an opportunity to make money here, right? If you buy here, you're getting an opportunity to make money here. So this is a little bit more of a sloped trading range. This is not so much of a sloped trading range. This is more of an impulse. This is still kind of impulsive certainly on like higher time frame. You're going to see like this is quite impulsive here. This is very clearly like ridiculous, and even this pump down here. But now we're getting this overlap on these bars here, right? These 3 bars, potentially signaling that we could be trying to go sideways now for, I don't know, maybe a few days or maybe a week or so. On this weekly time frame, I mean, the weekly time frame looks hideous, right? The weekly time frame looks like we want to just keep going down. As I mentioned in almost pretty much every time we look at the weekly, this is still your trade setup. Stop is at risk here, but it has not been taken. But certainly this is not looking good. This is looking very, very, very weak for bulls. Bulls really are hoping that we can push back up into this 40,000 area, maybe up to 41, and kind of start this sideways trading range here. And I think it looks pretty clear that we do have kind of a sideways trading range here, right? But again, we have this channel that is trying its best to keep pushing downward. Now, if you want some confluence for a potential bullish scenario where we retest this high of this channel, we do have um, one push to the bottom of the channel, two push to the bottom of the channel, top of the channel, whatever the fuck you want to call it, three pushes, right? And a decent bounce here. The only thing is, obviously, we kind of had a decent bounce here. I mean, not a more than decent bounce here, and it got blown out immediately to a new low. So it's probably more likely that we're going to try and take yet another low um, onto this trend channel line than to go up. You can't really just buy this here and be like, yeah, I'm going to put my stop here. I mean, you can, I guess, but it's just not as likely, especially because your first profit target has to be at the top of the channel. It's so very reasonable that we are going to get stopped at the top of the channel and then come back down. So your risk to reward is basically one here. And I don't think it really feels like you have a lot of, it doesn't really feel like you should have a lot of confidence, especially given these bars here, right? Like this is clear barbed wire. Um, even without this bar being a doji, like this bar has extreme overlap with this bar. This bar is kind of like sandwiched in between these two big bars, and then this bar ended up closing as a doji. This bar is obviously a doji, so these three bars here are kind of barbed wire already. This is only adding fuel to that fire. So what do you really expect? Like this could very easily happen, and you get stopped out before it goes to the profit target. So you really can't be buying here expecting to only go here. And you really, really can't be buying here expecting to go up all the way up to here because there's just too much bearish momentum at this time, right? This is nasty. This is even more nasty. This is nice. This is looking decent, this little relief rally here. But, I mean, it made sense that we're going to, when we take this low, possibly try and get a bounce. And we had a good reversal bar here on this 4-hour candle to open the daily. So, natural to have that follow through. But now you have to see what type of reaction are we going to get. Let's clear some stuff off here. Potentially having a channel here now, right? Which, like we just said, this channel is going to be a bear flag. Ultimately, we'll have some resolution to the downside and probably retest this 38K area. Maybe we go through. Maybe we do that. Or maybe we do that. Or maybe we just do this and then continue to bounce and we start to hold this level, this horizontal level, right, that we were talking about. You can't really see it on this daily chart. But yeah, like we were saying, we could be in like a horizontal trading range of sorts. But yeah, at this time, it's just too, like I think it makes sense to be maybe out of longs here. Just because we're starting to get this, kind of indecision was the word. Sorry, couldn't think of the word. Starting to get this type of indecision. A lot of whipsaw here. Very clearly, like I said, barbed wire. It doesn't make sense to be in your trades in barbed wire. You want to probably take your profits towards the high of this channel if you haven't taken it here. If you haven't taken it here, I mean, here you maybe don't take it just yet because we haven't seen the omega. Oops. Why is it? What the heck is that? What the frick? Hello? Okay. Oh my god. You guys, this is ridiculous. We didn't have this strength, right? Was I clicking the wrong arrow? Like, I don't know. Anyway, we didn't really see this strength here. We saw this kind of. I mean, this is barbed wire, obviously, right? So we could have expected that when we get this pop, it might get rejected. So it does make sense to be taking profits up here, especially this was some selling pressure here. But once we see this, definitely you want to be taking your profits up here. And now if you're in this trade, you hope you get an opportunity to take your profits back up here before we potentially push down lower. Like I said, though, We kind of have a channel here developing, and we definitely could be pushing higher. Now we're at the bottom of this channel, so theoretically we should get an opportunity to sell a little bit higher. But we are, kind of making this sideways range. So I think it does make sense to take at least some profits up here. Maybe you want to keep holding to a little bit higher. Do I think that we're going to get all the way back to this 40,500 range? Tough to say. Maybe. If we did, it would be something kind of like this. We kind of have this one leg up and then maybe a second leg up that kind of puts us closer to this level. And this is kind of your sideways consolidation that breaks up the legs. Hard to say at this time. Like I said, we have this barbed wire setting up on this 4-hour time frame, so we really have to be very careful. It's hard to really assume and expect anything. So yeah, this is kind of what we're looking at today. Probably behooves us on the higher time frames to be more bearish, because like I said, we have this clear trend line here that should be serving as resistance as we get closer to 40K. But certainly today's story ever since daily open, which was right here. This was the last candle of yesterday. This is daily open right here. It's been all buying. And it could be just, relief buying off of the shorts that kind of piled in here. I mean, this is really quick, fast money. So it just makes sense to be taking some profit off the table here. We're going to have to see how the price action continues to develop, whatever it wants to do, So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll be back in a few.